Many believe that after death, our soul simply disappears or goes straight to heaven or hell, but Edgar Cayce revealed a much deeper and more transformative truth. The 40 days after death are not just a mystical number mentioned in ancient traditions, but represent a sacred cycle of liberation and spiritual preparation. For centuries, we have been deprived of this essential understanding of what truly happens to our consciousness after we leave our physical body. Today you will discover the best-kept secrets about this extraordinary journey of the soul. Prepare for a revelation that will completely change your perspective on life and death. At the very moment the last breath leaves the body, Cayce describes a unique and transformative experience for the liberated soul. The consciousness experiences an indescribable sensation of lightness, as if an immense weight had been lifted from its shoulders forever. It is like awakening from a deep dream, yet at the same time maintaining a subtle connection with the world it has just left behind. The spirit floats above the physical body, observing with curiosity and confusion the scene unfolding below. This is the first time the soul truly understands its immortal nature, independent of matter. Separation doesn't happen abruptly or violently, but rather as a gradual and natural process of energetic detachment. The soul still maintains an etheric connection with the body it inhabited for decades, creating a bridge between the two worlds. Often, it doesn't immediately realize that physical death has occurred, continuing to try to interact with its familiar surroundings. It's common for the soul to try to talk to family members present, unable to understand why it can't be heard or seen. This initial phase marks the first conscious contact with the spiritual reality that has always existed, but was veiled by the density of matter. During these first hours, the soul experiences extraordinary mental clarity, far superior to that possessed when limited by the physical brain. Long-forgotten memories resurface with stunning clarity, as if a veil had been lifted from consciousness. Perception expands tremendously, allowing the soul to see and understand situations from multiple perspectives simultaneously. It is at this moment that many souls report seeing their entire lives flash before their eyes in a matter of seconds. This state of expanded consciousness sets the stage for the next 39 days of transformation. The initial confusion should not be interpreted as suffering, but as a natural process of adapting to a new way of existence. The soul must learn to navigate a reality where thought and movement have become one. Gradually, it begins to understand that it can move instantaneously through the power of intention, no longer limited by the laws of earthly physics. This newfound freedom is both exhilarating and disorienting, requiring a period of adjustment and learning. It's like learning to walk again, but this time in dimensions that completely transcend previous human experience. The environment around the soul is still familiar in the first moments, but gradually begins to transform as its perception adjusts. Colors become more vibrant, sounds acquire extraordinary musical qualities, and light itself seems to pulse with conscious life. The soul begins to perceive subtle presences that have always been present but were invisible to the physical eye. It is the beginning of a journey that will reveal layers of reality completely unknown during earthly existence. This first day marks the gateway to the deepest mysteries of existence. The moment of separation sets the pace and tone for the entire journey of the 40 days that follow. How the soul accepts and embraces this initial transition will determine the ease or difficulty of subsequent processes. Those who depart in peace and acceptance tend to experience a smoother and more harmonious separation. Conversely, souls who resist or deny the new reality may face additional turbulence in the early days. This is why spiritual preparation during life is so crucial for a smooth transition. In the days following separation, the soul enters an intense and revelatory process of reviewing its entire earthly experience. Like a cosmic film projected in high definition before its expanded consciousness, each significant moment of life resurfaces with stunning clarity and detail. It's not just about remembering past events, but reliving them with a deep understanding of the impacts and connections that were invisible during physical existence. Every word spoken, every action taken, every thought entertained resurfaces to be examined under the light of spiritual wisdom. This review is not an external judgment imposed by higher powers, but a natural process of self-evaluation that the soul itself conducts. During this extraordinary phase, the soul experiences not only its own perspectives on the events experienced, but also the perspectives of all those affected by its actions. It is as if it can feel in the very fibers of its being the joy it brought to others, as well as the pain it may have caused. This multidimensional experience of memory allows a complete understanding of the lessons each experience brought with it. Relationships gain new depth when seen through the eyes of both parties involved. Old conflicts reveal their origins and purposes hidden in the great fabric of spiritual learning. The emotional weight of this review can vary tremendously depending on the quality of the choices made during earthly life. Souls who have cultivated love, compassion, and service to others experience this phase as a luminous celebration of spiritual achievements. Each act of kindness shines like a star in the firmament of memory, generating waves of gratitude and profound satisfaction. On the other hand, souls who have lost themselves in selfishness, cruelty, or neglect face the natural weight of the consequences of their choices. There is no external punishment, but the very contrast between unrealized potential and missed opportunities generates a natural process of purification. The intensity of this experience serves as a fundamental preparation for the detachment that must occur in the following days. The soul must process and integrate all these memories before moving forward on its spiritual journey. It's as if one chapter must be completely closed before the next can be opened. Memories laden with intense emotional attachment require more time and attention to be fully processed and released. This inner work is essential to prevent unresolved emotional residue from becoming anchors that impede spiritual progress. During this period of review, the soul also recognizes patterns that have repeated themselves throughout earthly existence. Unlearned lessons become evident, as do undeveloped talents and untapped opportunities. This realization doesn't generate destructive guilt, but rather a clear understanding of the next necessary steps in spiritual evolution. It's as if the soul receives a detailed map of its progress and the areas that still need development. Karmic relationships are seen in their true nature, revealing the hidden purposes behind life's encounters and disagreements. The completion of this phase marks a crucial turning point in the soul's post-mortem journey. Once all memories have been reviewed and processed, the soul is free to release the emotional attachments that kept it tied to its earthly experience. This detachment does not mean forgetting or devaluing lived experiences, but rather integrating them as part of a larger learning process. The soul emerges from this process with expanded wisdom and a clear vision of its true spiritual nature. The weight of memories transforms into the light of wisdom, paving the way for the next phases of transformation. During the first days after transition, Cayce revealed that the soul maintains a deep and tangible connection with those it left behind on Earth. This bond is not only emotional, but also energetic, creating invisible bridges that allow subtle communication between dimensions. The newly freed soul is naturally drawn to loved ones, especially those with whom it shared the deepest bonds of love and affection during life. This attraction is as natural as gravity, pulling the discarnate consciousness toward the homes and hearts that were once its refuge. It is through this connection that the first signs of the spiritual presence that so many people report experiencing after the loss of a loved one manifest. Dreams become a privileged channel for this interdimensional communication, as during sleep the human mind relaxes its rational barriers and becomes more receptive to subtle spiritual frequencies. The visiting soul may appear in family members' dreams with a clarity and vividness that leaves them convinced it was much more than a simple dream. These dream visits carry specific messages of love, forgiveness, guidance, or simply the comforting confirmation that life continues beyond physical death. Often information that only the deceased could know is conveyed through these nocturnal encounters, serving as tangible evidence of the consciousness' survival. The soul uses dreams as a safe meeting room where it can communicate without causing fear or disturbance. Sudden and inexplicable premonitions are another way the soul communicates with the living during this special time. Family members may feel a familiar presence entering the room, accompanied by a sense of peace and warmth that cannot be logically explained. This phenomenon is particularly common in places that were meaningful to the deceased, such as their favorite room, their favorite armchair, or places where they used to spend quality time with family. The soul carries with it a unique energetic signature that can be perceived by the sensitive hearts of those who loved it. These moments serve as a healing balm for grief, offering the assurance that love transcends the barriers of death. Subtle sensory manifestations are also part of this repertoire of spiritual communication that Cayce so brilliantly described in his readings. The scent of the deceased's favorite perfume can fill a room with no identifiable physical source, creating a moment of deep connection and recognition. Gentle touches can be felt on the shoulder, hand, or face, conveying the affection the soul wishes to express to its loved ones. Objects may be moved or found in unusual positions as a way to draw attention to the spiritual presence. Even the sensation of someone sitting up in bed or walking down the hallway can be perceived by the household's inhabitants, signaling the loving visit of the soul in transition. The soul uses these contacts not to frighten or disturb, but to convey fundamental messages of love, gratitude, and continuity of existence. Often it wishes to express words it was unable to speak in life, ask forgiveness for misunderstandings, or simply assure family members that it is well and at peace. These moments of connection also serve to assist the soul in its process of detachment, allowing it to properly say goodbye to those it loves before moving on to higher stages of its spiritual journey. It is a period of mutual healing, where both the living and the transient spirit find solace and emotional closure. As the days pass, these contacts tend to become less frequent and more subtle, signaling that the soul is gradually adapting to its new reality and preparing for more advanced phases of its evolution. This natural process of withdrawal should not be interpreted as abandonment or oblivion, but as a healthy sign that the soul is progressing on its spiritual journey. The love that connects family and friends is eternal and transcends all dimensions, remaining a unifying force that can never be broken by physical death. This understanding brings peace to both the soul in transition and those continuing their earthly journey. Not all souls experience a smooth transition during the first few days after physical death, and Cayce was very clear in explaining that the degree of material attachment determines the ease or difficulty of this sacred process. Souls deeply rooted in material possessions, chemical addictions, toxic relationships, or destructive emotions like resentment and revenge find themselves trapped in invisible chains that prevent them from naturally rising. It's as if they carry heavy weights tied to their ankles as they attempt to fly, creating a constant struggle between the natural impulse to ascend and the downward forces of earthly attachments. This condition is not a divine punishment, but a natural consequence of choices made during physical life, where the consciousness has become accustomed to completely identifying with transitory elements rather than recognizing its true spiritual nature. Addictions represent one of the most challenging forms of attachment a soul can carry beyond physical death. Souls who have departed and are dependent on alcohol, drugs, gambling, or any other compulsion continue to feel the same burning desires, but now without a physical body capable of satisfying them. This situation creates a unique torment, where the need remains intense but satisfaction becomes impossible, generating a cycle of frustration and despair that can last well beyond 40 days if not properly treated. These souls often wander the places where they used to feed their addictions, desperately trying to find a way to satisfy them through people still incarnate. This is why places like bars, casinos, and drug-dealing establishments can harbor disturbed spiritual presences that negatively influence those who frequent them. Excessive attachment to material possessions creates another type of spiritual prison that Cayce described with impressive accuracy in his readings. Souls who have dedicated their entire earthly existence to accumulating wealth, property, or precious objects find it extremely difficult to accept that all of this is nothing more than a temporary illusion. They may remain wandering around their former residences, trying to protect treasures that no longer belong to them, and that, in fact, never truly belonged to them. This situation is particularly tragic because these souls have often squandered precious opportunities for spiritual development in exchange for material security that turned out to be completely illusory. The detachment forced by physical death can be too traumatic to be accepted immediately, creating a state of denial that perpetuates suffering. Relationships based on possessiveness, control, or unhealthy emotional dependence also create chains that bind the soul to the earthly dimension. Controlling spouses may continue to haunt their widows, overprotective parents may refuse to release their adult children, and obsessive lovers may pursue the object of their passion even after death. These unhealthy relationship patterns do not automatically dissolve with physical death, but they must be consciously recognized and transformed before the soul can progress. True love always liberates and never imprisons, and souls trapped in these patterns must learn the difference between genuine love and possessive attachment before they can move forward in their spiritual evolution. Destructive emotions such as hatred, resentment, revenge, and guilt also act as heavy anchors that impede the soul's natural elevation. These dense energies create such a low vibration that the soul is temporarily unable to perceive the higher dimensions that are its natural inheritance. Souls consumed by these emotions can become obsessively focused on their tormentors or victims, creating vicious cycles of negative energy that harm both the deceased and the incarnate involved. Forgiveness is not only a beautiful spiritual ideal, but a practical necessity for freeing the soul from the chains it forged through its emotional choices. Without this liberation, the soul can remain trapped in lower astral levels for periods extending far beyond the natural 40 days. Freeing ourselves from these chains requires a conscious process of recognition, repentance, and transformation that can be facilitated both by the soul itself and through interventions from spiritual guides and prayers from the living. It is not an automatic process, but a spiritual work that requires courage to face the illusions that were nurtured during earthly life. Some souls achieve this liberation quickly in the first few days after death, while others may take much longer, depending on the depth of their attachments. Understanding this process should inspire all of us to examine our own attachments, while we still have the opportunity to consciously transform them during our earthly journey. Around the second week after the transition, when the soul has processed its most immediate memories and begun to adapt to the new reality, Cayce describes the emergence of luminous presences that come to the aid of the journeying spirit. These spirit guides are not random figures, but beings who maintain deep connections with the transitory soul and may be mentors from past lives, members of the same spiritual family, or even higher aspects of one's own individual consciousness. Their appearance marks a crucial moment in the afterlife journey, as it represents the transition from a state of confusion and solitary adaptation to a guided and loving process of spiritual evolution. The way these guides present themselves is always adapted to the understanding and beliefs of the soul they assist, appearing in a recognizable and comforting manner so as not to arouse fear or resistance. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to receive help from beings who completely understand your journey and are exclusively dedicated to your spiritual well-being? The intervention of these celestial mentors does not happen by chance, but follows precise spiritual laws that respect both the soul's free will and its level of evolutionary development. They patiently wait for the soul to process its most immediate attachments and be ready to accept higher guidance, never imposing their presence or prematurely interfering in the natural process of adaptation. When they finally manifest, they bring with them an energy of unconditional love and wisdom that immediately comforts and guides the disoriented consciousness, creating a safe environment for the next steps of the spiritual journey. The first task of these counselor guides is to help the soul completely free itself from any residual fear related to death or the unknown that it may be experiencing. Through their radiant presence and clear telepathic communication, they explain the illusory nature of physical death and reveal the infinite continuity of conscious existence. Any terror related to punitive judgments or eternal damnation is gently dissolved through practical demonstrations of unconditional love and total acceptance. These luminous beings possess the unique ability to transmit knowledge directly to the soul's consciousness, without the need for words or complex explanations, allowing an instant understanding of spiritual truths that would take years to assimilate through conventional methods. The guidance work continues with the identification and dissolution of any dark or negative energy the soul may have accumulated during its earthly existence or during the first days of transition. Spirit guides possess specialized tools and techniques for energetic transmutation, capable of transforming even the densest emotional burdens into pure light and wisdom useful for future evolution. This purification process is not painful, but liberating, as if layers of accumulated dirt were gently removed from a precious jewel, allowing its natural light to shine with full intensity. The soul experiences a growing sense of lightness and clarity as these energetic cleansings are performed with compassionate mastery. Beyond purification and guidance, Guides also begin to prepare the soul for the next phases of its journey, providing information about the dimensional planes it will visit and the learning experiences that lie ahead. They explain with infinite patience the spiritual purposes behind the experiences lived during the recently concluded incarnation, helping the soul integrate all the lessons and understand how each challenge contributed to its evolutionary growth. This expanded perspective completely transforms the way the soul perceives its earthly journey, revealing the perfection hidden even in the most difficult and seemingly meaningless moments. What might previously have seemed like unnecessary suffering or cosmic injustice is revealed as precisely calibrated opportunities for specific spiritual development. The continued presence of these spiritual guides throughout the following days ensures that the soul never feels abandoned or lost in its post-mortem journey, creating a solid foundation of trust and security that will greatly facilitate all subsequent processes. Their infinite wisdom and unconditional love serve as guiding beacons that illuminate each step of the way, transforming what could otherwise be a terrifying experience into a wonderful adventure of discovery and spiritual growth. With this divine assistance, the soul is prepared to face the trials and revelations that lie ahead in the days ahead, knowing that it never walks alone in the vast ocean of eternity. Between the 14th and 21st days after the transition, the soul enters a phase that Cayce described as the most revealing and transformative period of the entire post-mortem journey. It is at this time that the soul faces what can be called spiritual trials, although this term may give the erroneous impression of external judgment or divine punishment. In reality, these trials are natural reflections of the energies that the soul itself generated through its choices, thoughts, and actions during its earthly existence. Like a cosmic mirror of absolute precision, each vibratory pattern created returns to the soul to be experienced and understood in its entirety. It is a process of direct confrontation with the energetic consequences of every decision made, every word spoken, and every intention nurtured throughout the life just concluded. The nature of these trials varies tremendously according to the quality of experiences accumulated by each individual soul during their earthly journey. Those who have cultivated virtues such as compassion, generosity, honesty, and selfless love find themselves enveloped by waves of golden light that confirm and amplify these luminous qualities. Each act of kindness generates reverberations of joy that permeate the entire consciousness, creating a harmonious symphony of profound spiritual satisfaction. On the other hand, patterns of selfishness, cruelty, dishonesty, or neglect manifest as shadows that must be confronted and integrated before the soul can proceed to higher stages of evolution. There is no external punishment, but the natural weight of the energetic consequences generated by consciousness itself. This confrontation with one's own energetic creations serves as an intensive school of self-knowledge where nothing can be hidden or denied. The soul clearly sees how each of its choices affected not only its own evolution, but also the spiritual development of all those it touched, directly or indirectly, during its time on Earth. Relationships gain a completely new dimension when viewed from this expanded perspective, revealing the intricate webs of cause and effect that connect all consciousnesses in an infinite tapestry of mutual learning. Old hurts are understood as opportunities for growth, ungranted forgiveness is revealed as unnecessary burdens, and even the most painful conflicts reveal their hidden purposes in the grand scheme of spiritual evolution. The intensity of this experience can range from moments of transcendent ecstasy to periods of profound reflection on missed opportunities and unrealized potential. Souls who have lived lives dedicated to service and love experience glorious confirmation of their choices, feeling enveloped by cosmic gratitude emanating from all beings who have benefited from their actions. Their virtues are not only recognized, but also enhanced, preparing them for even higher levels of spiritual service in the dimensions to come. Those who have lost themselves in destructive patterns face the weight of their creations, not as punishment, but as an opportunity for transmutation and growth through a full understanding of the consequences of their choices. Throughout this process, spiritual guides remain present, offering unconditional support and a higher perspective that helps the soul integrate each revelation constructively and evolve. They explain that these trials are not character flaws or unforgivable sins, but simply natural stages in the development of consciousness that all souls go through on their infinite journey toward perfection. Each challenge encountered during this phase represents an opportunity to release limiting patterns and rise to higher levels of spiritual understanding. The soul learns that there are no true mistakes, only experiences that contribute to the expansion of cosmic wisdom, transforming even the most painful memories into fuel for future spiritual achievements. At the end of this crucial phase, the soul emerges with a crystal-clear understanding of its current position in the grand spectrum of spiritual evolution and a clear vision of the next steps necessary for its future development. These trials do not leave scars, but polishes that reveal the spiritual diamond that has always existed beneath the temporary layers of the earthly personality. With this new clarity and the densest attachments already transmuted or released, the soul is prepared for the even deeper revelations that await it in the subsequent phases of its post-mortem journey. This period marks a fundamental transformation in consciousness, laying the solid foundations for the spiritual elevation that will characterize the next stages of its eternal evolution. After an intense period of self-evaluation and purification, the soul enters one of the most exciting and comforting phases of its entire post-mortem journey. It is at this time that it reunites with familiar spirits who have transitioned in previous times, creating a moment of cosmic celebration that dissolves any lingering loneliness or fear. These encounters do not happen by chance, but stem from deep spiritual affinities that transcend the merely biological or social bonds of earthly existence. Souls who have shared evolutionary journeys across multiple incarnations recognize each other instantly, regardless of the familial roles they may have played in the life just concluded. The love that connects these consciousnesses is of such a pure and unconditional nature that it surpasses any understanding possible during limited physical existence. The first of these reunions often occurs with those who maintain the deepest emotional bonds during earthly life: parents, spouses, children, or close friends who have already made their own transition to the spiritual realms. The emotion of this moment transcends any adequate description, as it combines the relief of knowing that loved ones continue to exist with the indescribable joy of realizing that true love is truly eternal. Tears of happiness, if it were possible to cry them in this state, would flow abundantly as the soul realizes that it was never truly separated from those it loves, but only temporarily prevented from perceiving their continued presence. These reunions serve as a definitive healing for any trauma related to loss or separation that may have been experienced during the final moments of physical life. During these sacred encounters, profound communications occur through methods that completely transcend the limitations of verbal language. Thoughts, emotions, memories, and wisdom are shared instantly through direct communion between consciousnesses, allowing for an intimacy and mutual understanding never before possible during incarnate existence. Long-standing misunderstandings are instantly dissolved when both parties can directly perceive the intentions and motivations behind every past action. Words never spoken in life can finally be expressed. Forgiveness can be granted and received without the need for complex explanations, and the pure love that has always existed between souls can be experienced without the distortions created by earthly egos and limiting circumstances. These familiar spirits play a crucial role as loving ambassadors who facilitate the newly arrived soul's adaptation to the higher spiritual planes. They share their own experiences of transition and evolution, offering valuable insights into the processes the soul is undergoing and preparing it for the wonders yet to come. As personal guides who intimately know the soul's history and unique characteristics, they can offer specific, personalized advice that tremendously accelerates the process of spiritual adaptation. Their radiant presence serves as bridges between the newly departed earthly experience and the unfolding cosmic realities, making the transition less abrupt and more harmonious. It is through this loving support that many souls find the courage to completely release their last earthly attachments and fully embrace their infinite spiritual nature. The environment where these reunions occur is described by Cayce as being of transcendent beauty that surpasses any earthly landscape, yet retains familiar elements that provide comfort and recognition. Gardens of liquid light, where each flower pulses with living consciousness and celestial music. Crystal lakes that reflect not only images, but also emotions and thoughts, and architectural structures that respond to the spiritual desires and needs of their inhabitants. In these paradisiacal settings, souls can finally experience relationships based purely on unconditional love, free from all the limitations, fears, and misunderstandings that characterize their interactions during physical incarnations. It is a preview of the even higher dimensions that await those who continue to evolve spiritually. As these reunions unfold over several days, the soul begins to grasp the truly familial and interconnected nature of all conscious existence. It realizes that it has never truly been alone during its earthly journeys, but always accompanied by an invisible network of love and support that extends across all dimensions of creation. This revelation completely transforms its understanding of relationships, showing that every encounter on Earth, even the most challenging, was a carefully orchestrated opportunity for mutual growth and spiritual evolution. What once seemed like coincidence or cruel fate reveals itself as perfect synchronicity, guided by infinite cosmic wisdom that always seeks the highest good of all involved. The 30th day marks a fundamental transformation in the soul's journey, representing a decisive turning point that Cayce described as the moment of the great liberation of Earth's vibrations. It is at this crucial point that the soul finally disconnects completely from the dense frequencies of the physical dimension, experiencing a sense of freedom and expansion unprecedented in its post-mortem experience. Like a butterfly definitively emerging from its cocoon, the consciousness frees itself from the last ties that kept it connected to the Earth's vibratory patterns, allowing its true spiritual nature to shine with full intensity. This transformation is not gradual, but occurs as a quantum leap of consciousness that instantly elevates the soul to higher levels of perception and cosmic understanding. During this monumental journey, the soul experiences an expansion of consciousness that allows it to simultaneously perceive multiple dimensions of spiritual reality. Its capacity for perception multiplies exponentially, enabling it to comprehend aspects of creation that were completely invisible during its limited physical existence. It is as if blindfolds are removed from its spiritual eyes, revealing infinite landscapes of beauty, wisdom, and possibility that have always existed but remained hidden by the limitations of earthly perception. Colors that do not exist in the physical spectrum become visible, music of impossible harmonies fills its consciousness, and fragrances of absolute purity awaken spiritual senses that were dormant during material incarnation. From this transformative moment onward, the soul perceives a natural decrease in its compulsion to frequently visit loved ones still incarnated on Earth. This isn't a question of abandonment or forgetfulness, but rather an expanded understanding that true love completely transcends the need for physical or even dimensional proximity. The soul understands that its spiritual elevation is, in fact, the greatest contribution it can offer to those it loves, radiating blessings and protection from higher dimensions where its positive influence can be much more effective and far-reaching. This shift in perspective frees both the soul and its earthly relatives, allowing both to continue on their respective evolutionary journeys without the constraints of possessive attachment or emotional dependence. At this advanced stage of post-mortem development, the soul also gains access to deeper Akashic records, allowing it to review not only its recently concluded existence, but also patterns that extend across multiple incarnations and dimensions of experience. This panoramic view of its evolutionary journey reveals the perfect continuity and purpose behind every experience lived, every relationship formed, and every challenge faced throughout eons of spiritual development. Karmic cycles become evident in all their complexity and beauty, showing how each action generated consequences that contributed to the learning not only of the soul itself, but of the entire network of consciousnesses connected to it throughout the ages. Preparation for the next stages of the spiritual journey also intensifies dramatically during this crucial phase. Spiritual guides from even higher levels begin to approach, offering guidance on the choices that will present themselves in the coming days and the opportunities for service that will be available in the higher dimensions. The soul begins to glimpse possibilities for cosmic contribution that go far beyond any concept of personal fulfillment it may have harbored during its earthly existence. Planetary missions, assistance to other evolving souls, participation in the creation and maintenance of entire star systems, horizons of service of unimaginable magnitude begin to unfold before its expanded consciousness. This transitional phase culminates with the soul developing a clear understanding of its true cosmic identity, completely transcending the limitations of the earthly personality that for so long defined its self-understanding. It realizes that the person it was during physical life was but a small facet of a multidimensional spiritual diamond that possesses aspects in countless simultaneous realities. This revelation, far from diminishing the importance of the recently lived earthly experience, reveals it as a precious chapter in an infinite story of spiritual growth and discovery. With this new, expanded perspective and complete liberation from earthly vibrations, the soul is perfectly prepared for the even more profound revelations that await at the end of its 40-day journey. Between the 30th and 40th days, Cayce revealed that the soul receives one of the most transformative and enlightening experiences of its entire existence, the clear and unequivocal revelation of its current spiritual destiny. This is not a sentence imposed by external authorities or a final judgment on its cosmic worth, but a crystal-clear understanding that arises naturally from its own expanded consciousness about the evolutionary level it has reached through its incarnate experiences. Like a student who finally understands their level of proficiency in a complex subject, the soul realizes exactly where it stands in the great universal school of spiritual evolution. This revelation brings with it a profound sense of satisfaction and purpose, even when it indicates that there is still much further to go, for the soul understands that each step of the journey is perfectly suited to its specific evolutionary needs. The way this revelation manifests transcends any method of communication known during physical existence, reaching consciousness as a direct transmission of knowledge that instantly permeates all levels of the spiritual being. It is as if the soul is bathed in a shower of cosmic wisdom that definitively dissolves any confusion about its purpose, value, or future direction. In this sacred moment, it clearly sees not only where it is, but also the path that has brought it to this point, and the opportunities that open up for continued evolution. This panoramic view of its spiritual progress includes both successes and challenges, revealing how each experience, even the most painful, perfectly contributed to its current development. During this phase of extraordinary enlightenment, the soul also receives profound insights into the specific dimensions where it will continue its evolution after completing the 40-day cycle. Some souls discover that they will return to planes of study and preparation, where they can more deeply process the lessons learned and prepare for future opportunities of service or incarnation. Others receive the revelation that they are ready to take on responsibilities as spiritual guides, cosmic mentors, or guardians of less experienced souls who will begin their own evolutionary journeys. There are also those who discover they are prepared for special missions in different planetary systems, where their specific skills and wisdom can contribute to larger-scale cosmic projects. The quality of this revelation varies tremendously based on the level of development each soul achieved during their recently completed earthly sojourn. Souls who have cultivated higher virtues such as universal compassion, practical wisdom, and selfless service receive luminous revelations about opportunities for contribution that expand their capacity for positive impact on the cosmos. They may discover they are qualified to work directly with angelic hierarchies, participate in cosmic councils that oversee the evolution of entire civilizations, or even contribute to the creation of new worlds where other souls can experience evolutionary growth. On the other hand, souls who still carry denser patterns receive revelations about opportunities for healing and development that will prepare them for higher levels of service in future times. This understanding of spiritual destiny is not limiting or final, but represents a current assessment that is always subject to change based on the soul's ongoing choices and evolutionary progress. It is like receiving a detailed map that clearly shows where you are and the available routes, but recognizes that new paths may open as you advance and develop new capabilities. The soul understands that its evolution is an infinite process without artificial limitations, where each level achieved opens doors to even more extraordinary possibilities for growth and cosmic contribution. This perspective removes any sense of desperate urgency or disappointment with seemingly slow progress, replacing them with cosmic patience and calm determination. Revelation also includes a clear understanding of how the experiences of one's newly lived life seamlessly integrate into the vast tapestry of one's multidimensional evolution. Difficult relationships reveal themselves as precise opportunities to develop tolerance and compassion. Financial challenges become lessons in detachment and universal trust. Health problems prove to be catalysts for accelerated spiritual growth, and even apparent failures are recognized as essential stepping stones toward future achievements. This integrated perspective completely transforms the way the soul perceives its earthly journey, elevating each lived moment to the status of a sacred contribution to a perfectly orchestrated evolutionary plan that extends far beyond individual comprehension. With this profound revelation about its spiritual destiny firmly embedded in its consciousness, the soul develops an unshakable trust in its own journey and a profound gratitude for all the experiences that have brought it to this point of understanding. It realizes that there is no rush in spiritual evolution, only infinite opportunities for growth and discovery that unfold in the perfect timing of cosmic wisdom. This understanding perfectly prepares it for the final passage that will occur on the 40th day, when it will finally cross the portal that will definitively end its connection with the earthly dimension and begin the next chapter of its eternal adventure through the infinite mysteries of creation. The 40th day represents the most transcendent and definitive moment of the entire post-mortem journey, when the soul finally crosses the cosmic portal that permanently terminates its link with the earthly dimension and marks its official entry into the higher spheres of spiritual existence. This is not merely a temporal milestone, but a fundamental transformation in the very nature of consciousness, which has completed its cycle of liberation and purification. As a cosmic graduation celebrating the attainment of a new level of spiritual evolution, this moment is imbued with a sacred solemnity that reverberates through multiple dimensions of creation. The soul experiences a sense of completeness that transcends any satisfaction known during physical existence, for it represents not only the end of a journey, but the beginning of infinitely greater possibilities for growth and universal service. The experience of crossing this sacred portal is described by Cayce as a total immersion in pure light that definitively dissolves any trace of limited earthly identity, revealing the true cosmic nature of the soul that has always existed but remained veiled by the limitations of physical incarnation. It is as if millennia-old layers of illusory identification are instantly removed, allowing the inner spiritual diamond to shine with its original splendor, untouched by any temporal experience. This transformation does not represent the destruction of the personality developed during earthly life, but its harmonious integration into an infinitely greater context of cosmic identity that encompasses multiple dimensions of simultaneous experience. The soul retains all the lessons, relationships, and realizations achieved, but now perceives them as precious facets of a multidimensional being that completely transcends the limitations of time and space. During this transcendent passage, the soul is welcomed by angelic hierarchies and cosmic masters who await its arrival with celebration and recognition for its successfully completed evolutionary journey. These luminous beings are not strangers, but spiritual family who have accompanied every step of the soul's development through eons of evolutionary experience. Their radiant presence confirms that the 40-day journey has been successfully navigated and that the soul is truly ready for the responsibilities and opportunities that await in the higher dimensions. It is a moment of mutual recognition where the soul realizes that it has never been truly alone in its earthly struggles, but always supported by an infinite network of love and wisdom that has discreetly guided every step of its evolution. The portal itself is described as a convergence of cosmic energies that creates a dimensional passage where the laws of earthly physics do not apply and where consciousness can transition smoothly between different levels of universal reality. It is not a physical structure in the conventional sense, but an energetic configuration that responds specifically to the vibrational level reached by the soul through its 40-day journey of purification and elevation. Only souls that have successfully completed this liberation process can perceive and pass through this portal, while those still harboring dense attachments remain temporarily in lower dimensions until they are ready for this monumental transition. It is a perfect system of spiritual natural selection that ensures that each soul advances only when truly prepared for the challenges and opportunities of the next evolutionary level. Once the crossing is completed, the soul finds itself in dimensions of existence that surpass any description possible through earthly language, where beauty, harmony, and possibility exist on scales that completely transcend human imagination. These realms are not final destinations, but way stations on an infinite journey of discovery and service that extends across multiple universes and inconceivable dimensions. The soul understands that its adventure is just beginning, with opportunities ahead that will make its greatest earthly achievements seem like the first hesitant steps of a child learning to walk. Yet there is no overwhelming sensation, only a deep sense of rightness and excitement about the infinite possibilities that await exploration. This completion of the 40-day cycle establishes a natural rhythm that governs all souls' transitions, explaining why so many spiritual and religious traditions around the world intuitively recognize this period as sacred. It is not only a cultural coincidence, but a recognition of a cosmic law that Edgar Cayce was privileged to reveal through his extraordinary psychic abilities. Understanding this process can bring tremendous comfort to those who have lost loved ones, knowing that there is a structured, loving journey that each soul travels, rather than a random or frightening experience. It also serves as a powerful reminder that our earthly lives are just a small part of a much grander adventure that continues infinitely beyond physical death. Now that you have discovered the profound secrets of the 40 days after death revealed by Edgar Cayce, you can understand that this is not a period of suffering or uncertainty, but a sacred journey of liberation and spiritual evolution. Each phase of this cosmic process has been carefully orchestrated by universal wisdom to ensure that every soul receives precisely the experiences necessary for its next level of development. Understanding this truth should completely transform our perspective on death, revealing it not as a terrible end, but as a glorious graduation to higher dimensions of existence and service. This extraordinary revelation from Cayce invites us to live our earthly lives with greater awareness and purpose, knowing that every choice we make here will determine the ease of our eventual transition. When our time to cross the veil finally comes, we can do so with confidence and anticipation, knowing that a wondrous journey of discovery and reunification awaits us. The love we share with others is never lost, but becomes even more beautiful when liberated from the limitations of physical existence. May this wisdom inspire you to live with greater compassion, authenticity, and spiritual awareness, preparing for a transition that will truly be a homecoming rather than a departure.